In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about why resilience is the highest masculine quality. To begin with, I want to give you an example of how this shows up in a lot of male to male communication. So if you're a guy, think about the times you hang out with your friends and the type of communication that you have. A lot of the time, this can be like bantering, challenging each other, making fun of one another, just playfully firing verbal jabs at one another. This is how men tend to communicate all over the world, right? Culturally. To some people, it might look a little bit childish, like why are they always making fun of one another or challenging each other? But I think there's a deeper kind of thing going on, and what's actually going on is that other guys are testing your resilience. Maybe not so much with friends because they know you, but when you meet new guys, they will test you because they want to know what you are made of. And they'll test you by firing little verbal jabs at you, maybe making fun of you a little bit in a playful way. And how you respond to these like verbal jabs and this bantering will tell the other person a lot about you. Now, if you are not a very resilient person, you will probably not receive this bantering very well. You might get reactive, you might get angry, you might get pissed off, you might start shouting stuff back or something. So that shows that you lack resilience. What I'm trying to tell you is that this kind of male bantering is how we test one another to find out how resilient you are. So if somebody fires some verbal jabs at you, when you can fire something back, that shows you're resilient, right? You weren't knocked off center by what this other person said to you. You were able to hang in there. And the message that sends the other guy is that this is someone who has a backbone. This is someone who is resilient. If the shit hits the fan, this is someone who I can rely on. I know sometimes this can lead into bullying almost, but that bullying will often come about if that guy cannot stand up for himself, if that guy is reactive. Then some people will just want to keep pushing them buttons. So this shows up in a lot of male communication. That was the point of the example, that men are always testing one another to see how resilient we are. And to know if this is someone I can trust, if this is someone who I can stand by, because when we meet new people, we don't really know what other people are made of and what they are like. We need to have these kind of behaviors and communication patterns to kind of figure out each other. Do you see what I mean? Who can I trust? Who can I be friends with? Who do I want to hang out with? And now I'm going to give you the best definition I found for what resilience is. Resilience is the capacity to prepare for, recover from, and adapt in the face of stress, adversity, trauma, or challenge. So I hope that gives you an idea of what we are talking about here. It almost means you are able to withstand the challenges of life, the unknowns of life, discomfort, chaos. This is what a lot of people now struggle with. The world has got almost too safe. It's got too safe that it's made us less resilient. And when you're less resilient, you are less capable. Because to be resilient means you can tackle life, just doing everyday things. Take, for example, a lazy person. A lazy person is not a resilient person. Just the idea of them having to do something like clean their house or go to work or go to the gym, they can't do it because they lack resilience, right? The challenge is too big. It feels too big. Some other examples I can give you of a lack of resilience, I would say anxiety, right? Anxiety is probably at an all-time high. And that is an example of where someone cannot deal with unknowns, complexity, chaos, unpredictability, and therefore they go into anxious states. If you were resilient, you would be able to understand that I trust myself. Whatever happens, I can handle it. But unfortunately, the world doesn't really promote this anymore. Like I said, the world has got so safe now. It's too safe, right? You can just sit in your house all day long, never go outside, and you'll be okay. You can work from home. You can obviously eat at home, sleep at home. You never need to leave your house, right? A lot more people are becoming housebound, right? And housebound is going to diminish your resilience. Also, a lot of people watching this will have a more sensitive nervous system. If you have a more sensitive nervous system, it's harder to be resilient because you feel things more, and this is something that you cannot change. I believe there's probably a spectrum. Some people, their nervous systems are not as sensitive. Therefore, they don't feel things as deeply. Therefore, they may appear to be more resilient than somebody else. If you have a more sensitive nervous system, it means it's going to be harder for you to be resilient because you feel too deeply. But this is like a double-edged sword, I believe. If you do have a more sensitive nervous system, then you can actually feel deeply and develop a stronger resilience. The capacity to feel deeply and to be resilient at the same time is almost like a superpower. The problem is you're going to have to work at developing that resilience. I would also suggest that resilience is the masculine quality of consciousness. So if we think about consciousness or awareness, it has certain qualities. One of the qualities we could define is stillness. So if we talk about three-dimensional world, the reality we are all plugged into through our senses, it's all movement, it's colors, it's energies, it's things are moving, time is happening. But when you drop below three-dimensional reality and you go to the source of it, just consciousness, awareness, there's more of a stillness to it, you see. And it's that stillness of consciousness which I would say is more of the masculine quality of consciousness. And when you find that, it's easier for you to be resilient, right? Because you found the stillness, you've gone beyond the movement. The problem with the person who lacks resilience is they're stuck in the movement, they're stuck on the energetic level, they're stuck in 3D. And therefore everything that happens overwhelms me. But if I find that silence, if I find that stillness deep within, underneath all this, then I'm grounded, I'm solid, right? To be resilient doesn't mean you don't feel, right? I want to put that out there because some people might be watching this thinking, I'm asking you to become some sort of numb robot. What I'm asking you to do is to feel deeply but not be moved by it. That's the hardest part. A lot of guys, and I used to do this, I would numb my feelings, I would numb myself, right? Because I didn't want to feel feelings I thought made me weak, right? And I think a lot of guys do this, but to be able to feel deeply and be unmoved, that's the true mark of a strong masculine man. It's the hardest thing, right? Especially if you've been suppressing and repressing your feelings for so long and you've become this kind of non-feeling person, it's going to probably take you a number of years to get comfortable feeling again, right? So now I want to talk to you about how you can begin to develop more resilience. First of all, I want to say developing resilience is uncomfortable. If you want to develop it in as short a time as possible, it is uncomfortable, but you'll be grateful and proud of yourself that you did it. So I'm going to give you kind of 3 or 4 little practices that I do personally. The first one is, in my opinion, probably the worst, and that is to fail. You're not going to like this. It's to fail. I think there's two types of failures, right? And a lot of people aren't doing the sort of failure I'm talking about. So the first sort of failure is where you give about 60 or 70%. Most people don't give things 100%. You only give maybe 60, 70% because if you give it everything and you fail, that really hurts. You let yourself off the hook. You let your ego off the hook by only giving, say, 70%, failing, and then not feeling too badly about it or getting over it quickly. And then at least you can tell people, well, I tried, but I failed, right? But you didn't really give it everything. That takes me on to my second definition of failure. And there's a certain criteria to this. The first one is it's something that you really want. Whatever the outcome is, you really want to experience it. The second one is you really truly believe it's going to happen. You have high expectations. And the third one is you give it everything. You give it 100%. If you fail after them three things, that kind of failure, that really sucks. That really hurts. That's heart-wrenching failure. I've experienced this a couple of times. The reason you don't give things 100% is because you are running away from true failure. You are running away from it because all the emotions that come up when you truly fail will make you feel some of the worst emotions you have ever felt in your whole life. I'm talking about feelings of deep unworthiness, not being good enough, being a loser. You're so scared of feeling them emotions that you just won't give things 100%. But when you do find the courage to give it 100% and then you fail, all these horrible, heart-wrenching feelings come up. Yeah, you might think, why would you want to experience that? Well, because then you have an opportunity to process them. Because you are not going to dive into them feelings willingly, right? You're just not going to do it. But we can use failure as kind of like a backdoor way into accessing these feelings. This is why they say that you need to fail over and over again before you succeed. Because it's constant failure that allows all these horrible, uncomfortable feelings to come up. Unworthiness, I'm undeserving, I'm a loser, I'm a piece of shit. All these feelings will come up. Then you can process them, you can feel them. And you fail enough times, you feel and process all the feelings, you become more resilient. The more resilient that you are, the easier it is for you to do what you want to do, right? Resilience has real life impact. You'll just be a stronger person, more confident. You believe in yourself more, right? Because when you get rid of all them feelings, you find your spirit. And your spirit is unlimited. Your spirit is true strength. So fail, right? Fail often, fail early, fail as much as you can. Now, the second thing I've got for you, again, this one sucks, but this is an easier one because everybody can do this. And it's hard cardio. So I'm not talking about going to the gym and doing your little bodybuilding workouts. I'm talking about doing something that really sucks, where it's constant misery. I laugh at this, but it's not funny, right? But something like running hard, or if you ever done the assault bike, going on an assault bike for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Think like David Goggins style training. This is probably why people really admire David Goggins and see him as some sort of masculine hero, because he's obviously a very resilient person. His levels of resilience are superhuman. Now, we are probably not going to reach them superhuman levels of resilience, and I am not claiming that I train like David Goggins, but I do have to make myself miserable through hard cardio a couple of times a week, right? And in a funny way, because I actually experience the growth from it, I kind of like doing it in a weird way, but while I'm doing it, I hate it. And so that's what you have to do, like pick running or anything that just sucks for at least kind of half an hour, if you can go that long, 20 minutes even, but it has to be constant. What I would suggest you do as well, just to add another layer to that, is time yourself. And if you're running, always be trying to beat your best time. And if you approach it like that, then it never gets easy. Because if you don't have that mindset, you can just take your foot off the gas, right? But always have that in mindset. I need to go faster. This is the time I'm going to beat. Before you even run, look at the time you're trying to beat and then set off with full intention to beat that time, right? And when you're running hard, or when you're doing some hard cardio, all of your demons, all of your doubts, all your critics are going to come up. And that's just a great way for you to face them, right? In that misery, in that darkness. This is what Goggins' message really is you get to meet all these demons in your head, right? And it's just a shortcut way to meet them. Just make yourself suffer, do some hard cardio. So the next one I've got for you is live surrendered. So this is a bit more of a spiritual way of developing resilience. So to live surrendered means you let go a little bit. Imagine there's an invisible energetic field everywhere. Well, there is, but imagine that. Just imagine if you haven't experienced that, there's this invisible energy everywhere. And if you were to just let go a little bit and start to trust this invisible energy, to just take care of things for you. You don't have to be such a control freak. You don't have to be anxious or worried all the time. You start to trust this invisible energy. You surrender to it. And the more you can live like surrendered and in this trusting sort of way, this invisible energy almost starts to carry you through life a little bit, right? You trust it to take care of you. You trust it to allow things to go your way, and it starts to carry your weight. And if something's carrying your weight, not only can you deal with things better, but you just become more resilient because you're more grounded. You found a foundation which is supporting you, right? You don't need to do it all on your own. When you find that energy that is supporting you, then you're just a more resilient person. You don't need to control everything. You trust that things are going to work out. It's a very difficult way to live initially because we're so attached to our egos that we're trying to control everything. But work on living a surrendered life. I would recommend the book Letting Go by David Hawkins if you haven't read it already. If you have read it, I would suggest reading it again. It's one of them books that you just read it multiple times and every time the message goes deeper. But that's an excellent book to help you to live a more surrendered life. Also, The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. That's a great book to help you live a more surrendered life too. The final thing I'll tell you, which I'll make another video about, is you have to learn self-regulation methods, techniques, skills. So self-regulation means when you are feeling triggered or anxious or going into fight flight, you need to find ways to regulate your system, self-regulation. But that's a topic for another video, because once you develop the skill of self-regulation, you can catch yourself when you're lacking resilience and you can pull yourself back into a more resilient state. Okay? And I want this for you because without resilience, the world is always going to defeat you. Your mind is going to be beating you up. And you're never going to be like robust enough to handle life. Okay? So I hope this video helps some of you out. If it did, feel free to check out these videos right here. But until next time, God bless.